Hey, hello everyone. In this video, I would like to talk about my upcoming project of making a cafe racer out of this 1980 Suzuki GS1000G. This is the G submodel, is the one with the drive shaft, which presents a series of opportunities and challenges as well about what I can do with the bike. I got this bike about 2 years ago. I bought it. It was stored in a barn, literally in a barn close to Monterey here in California. I was not able to work almost anything into this project for the last, as I said, the last 2 years. But finally now I have a little bit of time in my hands and I would like to get going with this. I'm very excited about this idea. And the purpose of this video is to discuss my thoughts and also, get your comments, get your ideas about what I should be doing with this bike. So the first thing is that, this girl needs to go into a serious diet because this bike weighs a lot. It's very, very heavy. There is everything is in steel, of course. No titanium, no carbon fiber, no fancy materials. Everything is really old school technology. So I want to chop the frame and eliminate as much as possible brackets and arms and subframes as I can. So let's take a look at that first. So let's first talk about the rear of the bike. As you can see, I removed the seat, I removed the rear cowl, the tail light now is hanging by the wires. So what's the idea here? I would like to have a very short tail section with a short seat, very, very short seat, and a traditional cafe race cowl in the back. I think it's very important the cowl fits well with the overall layout of the bike, and it's well aligned with the tank, so that the lines are harmonious and they get together along well. So my idea is to also to move the battery to the very back of the bike, so opening the center triangle of the chassis, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I would like to, if possible, to install a rear light integrated in the rear cowl. That, as I said, I want that to be very short. But not the blinkers, because here in California, one of the first things that the police checks for in customized bikes on custom bikes is whether the blinkers are integrated to the rear light, and if it is, you pay a fine, or you may even get your bike impounded if you talk with a cop that's not in a good day. So let's talk a little bit about the battery and the fuse box and the main electrics. I want to move all this part here, all this, to the very back of the bike and install inside of a cowl about here, again keeping the tail very, very short. And the reason for that is because I want to completely change the rear suspension. I want to eliminate the traditional suspension design and install a monoshock-like suspension. I think that would be very cool, change a lot on the bike, make it very custom. The way by which I want to do this, and I want to install a cross element here, a cross beam here with a bracket, and have a central coil spring right here. And then from the spring and the damper, we'll attach another bracket here on the back on this tray and have it working at the very center of the bike. I think that's going to be very, very cool, change a lot on how the bike looks and how the bike behaves as well. Also, going back to what I said before, I want to eliminate as many brackets as possible so this bike can save weight. So, cutting all these brackets here, like for this one from the seat, of course, it's obvious it's gonna go. As well as this rear triangle here, this is gonna go as well. This was for the passenger pegs. I'm not gonna be carrying passengers, I'm gonna eliminate that. I want to shorten all this triangle here. Already eliminated the central stand, so everything is gonna go. And I want to move the rear sets a little bit as much here as possible so we can make the riding in a more aggressive position and shorten a little bit this the pegs and the rear sets. So just to wrap up, I think the bike's gonna look wonderful once it has a monoshock-like suspension. Everything is gonna look clean and it's gonna look very, very aggressive, very sporty as well, with all the space open here where the battery is going to be removed for the installation of the new rear suspension. So now let's talk about the front of the bike, and from the front I'm going to mention the wheels as well. So on the front of the bike, I want to remove the original suspension and install an upside down suspension. I've been looking a lot into the weights and rake angles of several bikes, and I think Suzuki GS1000 would work quite well here. Maybe a CBR, a Honda CBR, but I'm looking into an upside down suspension, a modern suspension, maybe also install new brakes. I think that's very much consideration as well. And the wheels, I'm tilting towards spoke wheels, but I want to make a fundamental change here. You know, the GS1000G 1980 has a 18-inch wheel on the rear and a 20-inch wheel on the front. That's a very common arrangement in 1970s and 1980s bikes, given the, you know, the chassis, the tires, and the geometries used at the time. So I want to change that a lot. I want to have a smaller wheel on the front. The bike is going to get a very aggressive stance. In fact, I want to use the same tires on the rear and front of the bike. Of course, by doing that, the dynamics will change a lot. This will not be a bike for longer rides, but that's not the use I intend to make of it. This is most just like to ride around the neighborhood, have a good time, going to a bar from time to time, meeting friends. Is nothing for long rides or trips. So let's talk a little bit about the front fender, which is a subject that is very passionately discussed in cafe racing forums around the world. So yes, I do plan to keep the front fender, but I may need to have a customized fender as I want to change the tires. I want to use the same tire on the rear as on the front, so I'll need a wider fender than this one, the original one. I'll also use a little bit of a shorter fender as well on the front. Handlebars, well, not much to say. These handlebars will go. I don't want to keep them. I want to use drop-out handlebars with a very aggressive, very sporty position to ride the bike. And now, of course, the heart of the bike, which is the engine and also a little bit on the exhaust. So the engine is working more or less okay, or better, it was working more or less okay. It has not run for about 2 years now. But I want to remove all this black paint. It was painted in black, and I want to go back to the original exposed metal as it used to be. And the exhaust, so this bike has a Vance & Hines exhaust, which was installed by the previous owner. This engine, of course, is a 4-inline engine, and I would love to have 2 exhaust pipes on each side of the bike, so 2 on the right and 2 on the left, and make them sliced, very much like the MV Brutale style. The MVs, they have this beautiful exhaust. I'm going to post a picture here in the video. So where the exhausts are sliced, you can see them open by the side of the bike. They're beautiful. I want to do the same here on this with this girl here as well. So this is a little bit of the description of the project. Again, I want to have a very, very short tail end. I think it's going to look very aggressive, as well as lower the front, have spoke wheels, change the suspensions, rear with a monoshock, moving the battery to the rear cowl, install an upside down front suspension, have a very aggressive dropout style handlebars. I think it's going to look awesome. And it's going to ride awesome as well. So that's the beginning of the project. Now we got green light to go, and I'm going to start playing around with it. So as always, comments, suggestions are very much welcome. I'd love to hear from you, from your experiences and your ideas about building a bike. Please let me know what you think. All right, take care, guys, and ride safe out there. All the best. Bye.